What's going on, guys? I'm back with another 31 Days of Halloween review, and today we're going to be doing Insidious. For me, this film is just fine. I don't think it breaks down any barriers, nor does it plummet to any tropes. It's just a fine horror film. The one thing I will say though, James Wan makes this film his own, putting what we now know as his style on it, where because of that, it certainly flourishes into something better than what it could have been. I believe, especially for the time, his camera work and cinematography is what really brings this film to life, where nowadays is something you come to expect with the James Wan film. He inserts many different styles of camera work in this film, from the POV shots where it enhances that eerie feel, making you feel like you're actually in the film. Then you have the great camera suggestions, where it makes you look around for things that may or may not be there. And my favorite, which isn't necessarily a style of shot, but it's the way he places the camera in every scene, where it makes it feel like the characters are being watched by something, rather than just being in front of a camera and acting. I also feel a lot of the credit goes to the editing as well, where they incorporated the snappy editing style, which really worked well with the camera selection and helped enhance that unsettling tone, not letting you get too comfortable staring at each frame. I also thought the color palette was really well recognized. They used these great grays and blues and greens, giving off this mute color palette where everything felt almost lifeless and cold, which also helped magnify the tones they were going for. My next bit of praise is to do with the story itself. At the end of the day, this wasn't anything mind-boggling by all means, but you can certainly appreciate the change in concept from a family moving into a haunted house to the son being the one that's haunted. I thought this concept really worked because it brought you that much closer to the characters, making it feel like their family sanity and well-being was on the line. Another massive positive to the story is the pacing. I thought this film naturally flew by, although being a fairly slow rolled out film, but it does such a nice job establishing their characters and conflicts, where it helped build up this natural tension being so close and connected to the characters. And lastly with the story, simply put, this is a solid start to a world-building franchise. Unfortunately though, the rest of the franchise doesn't really pop off the page, but this film certainly laid out the groundwork for what could have been a great horror franchise. My next positive is with the characters. If they weren't executed properly, Insidious could have easily flopped on its face, because this film needs to be invested in them for this all to work out. I thought James Wan and the characters involved did a great job bringing in this genuine family feel and bond to these characters, having decently set up pieces of dialogue and reactions to things. The lead characters in Patrick Wilson and Rose Byrne blend pretty well together, bringing the sense of realism to their respective roles. Patrick Wilson just seems to be simply made for these kind of roles, where he smashes it every time out, being such a key part to this film, especially in the third act. Rose Byrne also did an awesome job in this film as well, playing a really charismatic role where her range of emotions were well recognized and executed. And you definitely cannot forget Lynn Shay as well, where she was equally, if not slightly better than our two leads. I thought she did a wonderful job altogether, where she really enhanced that unsettling and eerie tone being set. And my last positive to the film was most of the scares. There were definitely some cheesy bits, but for me, it surely had its scary bits as well, and a lot of that was due to the sounds. There was some pretty creepy imagery in this film for sure, where it really got brought to life by the sound mixing, making you grip your seat at some points. As I said, this film was just solid. So let's talk about some of the things I thought held the film back a little bit. For starters, this really isn't a negative watching it for the first time when it came out, but watching it now, it doesn't really hold up extremely well. The general concept has been beaten over the head time and time again with a bat, and fortunately, but unfortunately, James Wan has simply made better films with similar concept, so this sort of feels like a trial run or a stepping stone, if you will. My next issue was with some of the logic and plot holes of the film. It's tough to really get into specifics without spoiling it, but just to name a few, the film starts off with 5 characters, yeah? But as the second act and climax comes around, 2 characters basically just vanish from the plot, and even when they were involved, it seemed like they were afterthoughts, not really being in line with the actions going on. And another thing to add on to that, there's a subplot that comes in about the start of the second act or so that just doesn't really feel necessary at all. My next issue, that's basically already been hinted at already, is with some of the scares. There were a bunch of jump scares in this film, and I guess that's fine for what it is, and although handled better than some amateur horror films like The Nun, there's still a fair bit that just doesn't really work extremely well. And my last issue, which I could be alone on this one here, but the third act just feels a bit cartoonish. For example, I can appreciate the demon design, but he kind of feels like he's pulled out of a Teen Titans show or something, along with some other aspects as well, but I don't want to get the spoilers for the few that may not have seen the film yet. Overall, Insidious is an effective horror film. It doesn't take too many risks, but it does the job. 6 out of 10 from me. Let me know what you think of Insidious in the comments below, and let me know what film you'd like to see me review next. See you guys on the next one.